Hey, anybody. I'm reacting to this video by from Midas Touch Network. Some people say they don't love their reporting, but I've gotten a lot of good news from them. Some of it's on delay, but this is breaking news, so it was posted 20 minutes ago, and I'm gonna put makeup on even though it's like 9:30 at night and I'm about to go to bed. I'm gonna start by dyeing these things. I don't know where these come from. How did this happen to me? So that's what I'll be doing with my eyebrow pencil. And yeah. All right, so let's go. Let's hear this. I want to hear what all else. Goodness. Let's see. Oh, I have to record it. Oh. Excuse me. I'm just learning. We're learning together. Thanks, collective. I'm going to do reactions, makeup, and tarot. Is that enough of a confluence? I mean, it's like, how can I try to cobble together some kind of career for myself out of what's been left of the tatters of my reputation? Oh my gosh, I still don't even know what I've done. Amazing stuff. But I have a feeling I'm getting closer to figuring out what was done. I think we all are. So let's just focus on the news, the latest breaking. And I'm bracing myself. Some days I watch the news, it takes days to recover. I saw a man got his entire head rolled under him in Minnesota on a live stream. Just a live stream. It wasn't put on the news. They yanked him out of a car at a gas station. This like 6 foot tall white guy in his 30s. If his family's out there, if there's anyone who happens to see me, and it's been, I get 1 or 2 views, but my heart goes out to you. And I saw what happened. And he was in an orange jacket. 5 guys came on top of him. I mean, it was the sickest shit. It was after Renee Good, like 3 days later. That's what these people do. They double down. This is serious. This is vicious. Oh, they had him killed. They killed him, murdered him, then stood him up as if he was resisting arrest in handcuffs. He's dead. You can tell he's dead. So let's unwind with a little Midas touch. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. I'm looking at myself over here, but I know I'm supposed to be trained here. But I'll be doing my makeup, so. Okay, let's go.
$38,000 references to Donald Trump in the partial release of Epstein files on Friday. I say partial release because only 3 million documents have been produced. We believe there may be as many as 3 million more documents, perhaps 50 million pages that are still being hidden. And based on my experience as a litigator, I believe the most devastating documents have not yet been produced, but there have been bombshells. As noted just moments ago, 38,000 references to Donald Trump. He appears in 5,000 separate files in some of the most grotesque and vile ways, but Donald Trump says it is a complete vindication of him. It isn't. When you actually look at these files, the cabal that Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans were talking about, well, turns out it's in the White House right now. Howard Lutnick is all over it. Elon Musk is all over it. Peter Thiel is all over it. The whole crew is mentioned. Oh, Steve Bannon was having like daily conversations with Epstein. It's all right there. And for me, not getting conspiratorial, I'm just going to read the documents and share with you what they say. And I'll be clear, some of them are just allegations. Some of them are statements of contemporaneous writings between Epstein and others. You form your own opinions, but these are the documents. These are the emails. These are the confidential informant reports. We'll go through them again, but we've done some deep dives here on the Midas Touch Network where we've gone over extensively the 3 million documents that have been produced. We'll talk about Donald Trump shutting down the Kennedy Center after staff has been quitting, performers have been canceling their shows, and no one has been showing up to attend. Donald Trump took a crown jewel in Washington, D.C., a true treasure, and in record time, he destroyed it by vandalizing it with putting his name on it. We'll cover that. We should talk about this massive victory for Democrats in Texas. Texas State Senate District number 9 had a special election that oddly took place on a Saturday when nobody was expecting it, except if you live in Texas. But it was very much hyped up in Texas. There was not a low voter turnout. There was a high turnout, but independents and Republicans voted Democrat. Taylor Remitt, the Democratic candidate, union worker who fought for workers' rights and affordability, won by plus 14 in what was previously a plus 17 Trump district. That's a plus 31 overperformance by Democrats. And then Donald Trump's like, I don't even know who the candidate is. Lee Wamgans, the MAGA Republican? Who's that? Donald Trump continued to endorse her over and over again, and now pretends that he didn't even know who the Republican candidate was there. That's a little bit of insight into the future, MAGA Republicans, and actually it's a blast from the past, because this is what Trump does. He uses you, abuses you, and then throws you under the bus. We'll also talk about the Wall Street Journal exclusive about how Trump and Witkoff's company, World Liberty Financial, it's like the Trump kids and the Witkoff kids are in this company together. And they got $500 million from the United Arab Emirates. And this was before there was even a product that existed in this company. So it was basically money that went directly to the Trumps and Witkoffs. And then shortly thereafter, during the Trump term so far, Trump gave the United Arab Emirates access to the most highly classified semiconductor chips that the United States has that no prior American administration would even think about giving to the United Arab Emirates. And then earlier today, Donald Trump said, I know nothing about it. I know they like Bitcoin, but I know what? What are we talking about here? I know nothing about it. Talk about that here on the Midas Touch podcast. And myself is joined by Brett and Jordy Brothers. How are you doing?
That's what they would do.
Doing great, Ben, doing great, Jordy, doing great, Midas Mighty. It's great to be here, everybody, on this Tuesday, if you're listening on audio. You know, it was interesting when we saw the Don Lemon arrest go down the other day. I don't know why. I had this instinctual gut feeling. I'm like, they must be getting ready to drop another round of Epstein files because this is so ridiculous and insane that, you know, I know it's become a cliche at this point to say that they're trying to distract from something, but I was like, this is just way too freaking weird. And I think not an hour after I said that did Todd Blanche get out there and then announce this new trove of the Epstein documents. And while Trump tries to go out there and say, you know, basically what he says every time he's in trouble, I'm fully exonerated, everything's great, it actually says I'm good. Those files were bad. Those files were horrific to watch. I went fully down the rabbit hole all weekend, pouring through a ton of files. There were 3 million of them. I went through as many as I can. I was searching keywords, key phrases, and the things that we found here and that other people have found are truly horrifying. And I think it even goes beyond the fact, and we'll talk about this in greater detail, beyond the fact that this was a child sex trafficking ring and a sex trafficking ring in general, but it really shows this kind of behind the scenes elites, the way they use their network to get things done. You know, thinking back, every accusation is a confession. We know Donald Trump spoke about the idea of a deep state. It was the big thing he ran on, and QAnon and Pizzagate and all of those things. Well, it seemed like all of those things that he was saying was deflections from the things that him and Epstein and their associates were doing throughout these years. And by the way, I guarantee you, it's all happening right now as well without Epstein. We're going to dive into it all. You know, we got to toss it to Jordy. Jordy, what's the latest?
What's up, brothers? What's up, Midas Mighty? Great to be here. Excited to get into today's show. And let me just say this real quick, Brett. So, to your distraction note, right? You know, everything feels like Donald Trump continues to distract and just throw stuff, right? And hope it sticks. I think, well, that's exactly what he's doing. But he's doing it in a much dumber way than he had been doing it previously. Or let me say this, he hasn't kept up with the times. I think that's a better way to phrase it. He's using his same media strategy here that he did in 2016, and that has just continued to work for him his whole life. But now, where we are in 2026, he wasn't counting on independent media to hold his feet to the fire. He wasn't counting on pro-democracy communities that, quite frankly, I don't think existed in this capacity back in 2016 and even 2020. Where we sit right now, he can only try to distract, quote unquote, people from caring about these stories. When now we've built, the collective we have built these communities to, one, hold each other accountable, but to hold power accountable. And so we're not going to forget. He could try and distract by doing this thing, or arrest Don Lemon, which is a very serious thing and not a funny thing at all, to get people talking about that, or then bombing this country or doing something crazy here. But at the end of the day, we're all collectively in this and are hyper focused on every single issue, and we're not going to let up. We're not going to let anything just go unanswered. We're going to turn over every single rock. Again, the collective we here. I'm excited to get into today's show. Before I toss it over to you, to Benji, I made this bold prediction here for the Midas Touch Network last episode. Now, within the 30 days, that was 3 days ago, so I guess now 27 days we're going to hit 6 million subscribers to our YouTube channel. We are just 90,000 subscribers away at the time of this recording. I'm feeling bullish. I'm not going to have to shave my head. I think that was the bet that Brett tried to throw in. I'm not going to do it, B, because the Midas Mighty are not going to let us down. We are going to hit 6 million subscribers by the end of this month. So please check to see if you're subscribed. You may think you're subscribed, but you might not actually be. So check to see that you're subscribed to the Midas Touch YouTube channel right now. Benji, where to, big bro?
The Trump cover-up of the child sex trafficking ring sadly follows a predictable pattern with bad actors. First, they obstruct and refuse to turn over documents. Then they get cornered, and then they do a doc dump. And they will put in the doc dump bad documents to make you think, well, that must be it, because why would they turn this over if they're hiding more? And then they're usually using that doc dump as a moat, if you will. Think about a moat around a castle to hide the real treasure of the most devastating documents. So when people ask me, well, why would they turn that over? Well, because they're probably hiding much worse documents. And if
It's
you go
so
back
bad.
and you read some of the court filings that the Trump DOJ made, they've told federal judges that they are withholding documents on the basis of privilege claims. And a privilege in a lawsuit is a claim that a litigant can assert for not producing documents. Ultimately, a federal judge makes a ruling if a privilege claim is valid or not valid. But here, the Trump regime is banking on the fact that since there's no active case per se, and that the Epstein Transparency Act doesn't have a written private cause of action that says, here's who has standing to sue, that a federal judge can't intervene and make a ruling that a privilege claim is invalid. You'll recall when Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, the Congress members behind the Epstein Transparency Act, filed in federal court in the active federal cases, or inactive in the sense that Epstein is dead and Ghislaine Maxwell is convicted of child sex trafficking, but there has been a lot of activity in those cases in the kind of post-trial motions. But when Massie and Khanna said, we need an independent monitor and a special master, remember the Trump DOJ swooped in and said, no special master, these Congress members don't have standing. It's a case between the DOJ and Ghislaine Maxwell, and we don't want a special master. So, Judge, you don't have any authority to appoint an independent monitor or special master, and you don't have any ability to intervene in this, Judge. And remember what the judges said. Unfortunately, I guess that's right. I don't have the ability, even if we want to, but boy, were Massie and Khanna right? They were prescient in making that request. But this is what the DOJ is doing. They want to rule on their own privilege claims. And the types of privilege claims that they're making behind the scenes, And this is why they haven't submitted the report about where their redactions are coming from and what they're withholding. They're claiming deliberative process privilege. That means internal drafts, internal memos within the FBI, inter and intra-office correspondence, attorney-client privilege, work product privilege, executive privilege. So they're making all of these claims to avoid producing those millions of documents, which may be highly, highly relevant. I just want to put that out from the outset. Also, I want to say from the outset that the survivors are absolutely furious right now because they've been outed in these files over and over again. The task that Trump DOJ had since last February is just protect the survivors' names and release all of the files. And instead, the Trump regime is still withholding 3 million plus documents, and that's documents. Those may be 20, 30, 40 pages per document, which is why I say there may be...
That is so Trumpy. That is such the bully tactic. Like, ooh, fumble, here's all your shit out there. It just goes to prove what a fucking disgusting predator he is and all of these men. They are a joke on earth. And they're going to make us pay for that. And none of us are going to be laughing. This is so serious. That's as careless and cowardly as these guys are. And they would do the most hideous things, the most unbelievable. You can't even imagine it.
million pages of 3 million documents still outstanding, but you were able to identify the survivors' names, addresses, social security, and other identifying information. There was an entire file that we were able to access at the Midas Touch Network that had photographs of underage girls and minors that were just out there. And we had to reach out. As much as I didn't want to reach out to the DOJ or have any contact, we flagged it with Aaron Parnas for the DOJ and said, take this down. There's underage girls in your file. What the hell are you doing?
Like, what the hell are they doing? Like, who the fuck do they think they are? Don't you remember being in high school? I can't imagine. I honestly cannot even imagine. It's hard to even say the sentence because it forces me to imagine. One of my, like, high school friends, dads hitting on me. Like, they were, like, old. And they were probably my age. Like, these guys are our age. Are you fucking kidding me? You sick fuck. You may look like something now and have a title now. Maybe you look like something then and had some kind of title then. But no one gives a shit. It'd be like, but I sat next to you in high school, buddy, and I don't give a shit. You're my age. To like the Elon Musk and that group. He's older. That guy's no fucking genius. It took him 6 years to get through Penn. Okay. Keep it moving.
So think about the...
It's embarrassing what they did. We just bought all their...
And photos of them as underage girls have been produced. So they did that. And then these survivors filed an emergency motion on Monday to the federal judge saying, Judge, please help us. And the federal judge said a status conference for later this week and said, let me try to do what I can, but I don't know what I could even do as a federal judge because our system is based on the concept that the DOJ is supposed to be the good guys and the criminal defendant is adversarial with the presumption of innocence. But in the case of Ghislaine, is a convicted sex trafficker, so is guilty, and the DOJ is supposed to be representing the victims and survivors against the bad guy. But here they're basically on the same team, the DOJ and Ghislaine, and that's not what our system was built on. So the judge is saying, I don't really have the tools. I'm not sure what I can do. So I wanted to give that framework because obviously we'll go through the documents, Brenda Jordy, but I don't think that level of analysis has...
They can... I think Nunc pro trunc. Oh, ultravirus. They can cite ultravirus. That is a law that says this has been procedurally inaccurate. They can cite it and seal it immediately. Nunc pro trunc. Now as then. Yes. And they can sanction and they can fine. I have a couple of ideas for you, federal judge. I have a few ideas for all the judges. You better stand up for women and children. And the cops aren't on our side because they want that immunity. I know, it's horrifying to figure out. Not all cops. But if a woman's going in there and the cops not standing up for the woman in a sexual assault, you may want to look at that, especially if they produce reports like that. You might want to look at that.
Explained to people.
'Cause there go
that's
your
why
communities.
I want to focus there from the outset versus going through the emails.
And I want to remind people of this incredibly important point. The Deputy Attorney General at the Department of Justice is Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney.
Oh, Blanche, such
He's
a
the
loser.
guy who was trying to get Donald Trump not convicted of crimes. You think he's going to be out there and he's going to be releasing documents and releasing things that could possibly incriminate Donald Trump? Do you think he's going to be doing everything that he's done his entire career with his time with Donald Trump and defending Donald Trump? This DOJ views their job as being Donald Trump's defenders, not defenders of the law, not defenders of the Constitution. And we are seeing that in play with this disastrous release of the Epstein files. Nevertheless, as we've been saying, in this massive document dump, there was a lot of stuff, a lot of really bad stuff about Donald Trump, about Elon Musk, about Howard Lutnick. And I think that one of the big things that sticks out to me as I read this are just the lies. The lies were
I was
so
just thinking, they're the
apparent.
biggest
It'd be one
liars.
thing, and that doesn't necessarily make it much better, but it'd be one thing if these people were honest about their associations with Jeffrey Epstein. If Howard Lutnick actually was honest about his associations with Jeffrey Epstein.
And they're
if Elon
passionate
Musk
about
was
it.
actually honest about it. But these
There's
people
no
all
way,
did the
all
same kind of
caps.
lies. If you remember, there was a clip from a podcast with the New York Post, a journalist that Howard Lutnick was on, that we posted on Midas Touch. We played it on the show a few months back, where Howard Lutnick was talking about Epstein. And they were like, oh, so you know Epstein. And Howard Lutnick was like Epstein's neighbor and like bought the house that Epstein used to live in or something. And Howard Lutnick's like, oh yeah, I went into a party in 2005. I saw the guy. It was I knew right away when I saw him. He was disgusting. He was disgusting. I said, never call me again. I don't want to talk to you ever again. Right?
I saw that.
And then, wasn't even a party right? He said that Epstein
That's like
wanted
exactly what he
to give him
sounded
a
like.
tour of the house as neighbors because they lived together for lived next to each other for like a decade. He said, I get in there. And Epstein said, you like that massage table right there? And I said, why do you have a massage table in the center of your place? And Epstein said, you know, the kind of massages I like, right, Howard? And I said, ugh, you disgusting. So I went to my wife and I told my wife, that man is a disgusting animal. And I never talked to him.
Yeah.
Again.
That's a really good.
It was really good.
And sure enough,
I mean, he kind of had to show up his brother there a little bit, which was weird.
and sure enough,
The brothers
decade
was
later, we
actually
still
like
talk about
accurate.
Howard Lutnick. And we see it in the emails that literally.
They're
made
like, that was
plans
great.
For Howard Lutnick or he's still talking to Jeffrey Epstein. You see plans. Howard Lutnick going to Epstein's island. Epstein's asking him if he's bringing children with him. Lutnick says, I think he was like bringing his whole family with him. And then there is an email that comes after the kind of plans are made, which basically confirms or appears to confirm, I should say, that Lutnick actually did go to the island on this occasion, where they said, it was nice seeing you there. Jeffrey wanted me to pass this message along. Nice seeing you, Howard. And so we saw that with him.
What?
We see it with Elon Musk, where Elon's like Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey, I really need to let loose this weekend. Work is stressing me out. Can you please tell me what day your wildest parties on the island are going to be? I would really like to go to your wildest parties. These are all people who have been pretending like, oh, once I learned about that guy, I was disgusted, and I'm never going to ever associate myself with the guy. But as I was saying, as you look at this,
Yeah, they were all like, he emailed me. I told him to fuck off. Thanks. Meanwhile, you look at these emails and they're like, Jeffrey Epstein's blowing them off. He's like, oh, sure. If you want to come by, like writing them back days later. An email sent on the 13th, not getting replied to till days later. I can't remember the dates or anything. We can go over them because, oh my God. Like, okay, sure. And I sweat about it. Like, so Epstein replies, and then Elon Musk's like, like within the minute, like within the hour. Then he's like, then he plays games. Let's go over those because it's really interesting, actually. He plays games. Like, he's like, actually, I have to be back in, where the hell was he? Oh, St. Bart on Tuesday. So, maybe it'll be the 3rd. And Jeffrey Epstein, JE, is like, okay, I'll send a car. Like, whatever, man. It's kind of funny. I'm not rooting for Jeffrey Epstein, but he looks like a Cub Scout compared to these guys. I mean, maybe not a Cub Scout because holy shit, but it's not just like, the emails read like parties, 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 but it was nothing like that for these very young victims, these little girls and boys. Well, Elon's there.
I think there's the sex trafficking operation angle of this, which is depraved and appalling and horrifying. And then there, I think, is a broader story that was being told, especially in this latest email batch. And it's a story about power. And I think, when you speak about things like rape or sexual assault, oftentimes, I would say all the time, it's not about sex, it's about power, it's about dominance. And these emails reveal a culture of people who are predators, who are preying on everybody, almost the entire world. Donald Trump spoke about this idea of a deep state when he was running. Well, I think one of the most revealing things that at least comes to the surface for me when I'm reading these emails is that it seems like there was this network, this web of these elites, these powerful people. You had people like Jeffrey Epstein. You had people like then Prince Andrew. You had, Prime Minister of this country, Prime Minister of that country, the head of the CIA here. You had all of these leaders in all of these countries that were using Jeffrey Epstein as an intermediary to get things done. And they were all using each other for favors. And Epstein would help people get certain jobs in certain places when they had issues. When there was...
Everyone in the world kissed Jeffrey Epstein's ass. I'm seeing private notes that he wrote to himself about how he felt and not, when he didn't feel favorably. But so far in his emails, it's just, sure, okay. But, like, I'm not seeing blackmail, but I know that he did that. But everyone kissed his ass. Literally, they kissed his ass. We're going to go over the emails because wild.
People who needed attorneys because they were accused of...
I'm going to keep talking. And if you don't like it, you can go fuck yourself. That's the vibe. That's exactly the vibe. So another thing was I was listening to this great girl, not BJ Investigates. My Surprise Witness. It's the same lady, but it's her original channel. I was one of her first 1,000 subscribers. I'm so happy to see that she has 197,000 now. But I started watching her in 2020. So it was so fun to revisit because not only is she a Ivy League graduate, lawyer herself who gave up her degree, you can't give up her degree, but she quit her job at this very prestigious law firm. And in the person who gave her offer letter was in the emails the same week to Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, she was saying something really funny. She was going over the Richard Branson emails, and she was like, I mean, I don't know who this guy is. He's some kind of actor or something. And I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. Because he owns Virgin Atlantic or like Virgin Airlines or whatever. And that's funny too, because I'm laughing at her and I don't know what he does. I also am prone to swear words, and if you don't like that, you can get the fuck out also.
Assault themselves. Epstein would try to help them out with that, and he would hang these kind of favors over people's head in order to get things that he wants for powerful people. And he developed this Rolodex with all of this powerful people, and it is my belief that they were really shaping global events within their network and using their leverage over each other to do it. So I mean, some of the biggest events they were talking about in some of these emails, like toppling governments. I'm talking like really, really big, serious things. And I think Epstein was an essential part. It was like the nexus of all of that. But I think all roads basically pointed back to Epstein and pointed back to Trump. And these files were incredibly revealing in showing this power structure, which I feel like a lot of people kind of instinctually, think exists and know exists. But when you actually see it like that, and when you hear it in the recordings and see it in the videos, I think it takes on a whole other light. There was a recording, quite a decently long recording with Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel, that was in these documents. And one of the interesting things about this was it was like a few months before he was going to be out of power, or maybe even just a few weeks, and he's talking to Jeffrey Epstein, and he's basically going to Epstein for advice. This was the then prime minister of Israel. How do I make money off this position? Once I leave this office, how do I profit?
That was another thing. As I'm reading the emails, I'm like, oh yeah, Barack, what? I'm like, wait, oh, so you put the put and then the short. I've been looking at oil and gas for so long, and I just can't figure it out, but I know it's right there. You guys, we can make so much money on this. Anyway, I have a lot of energy. There's a lot of information in the emails. It's the saddest thing are these girls writing in code and what they had to say and what they had to experience. And just because someone is smiling and laughing and moving on with their life doesn't mean that part didn't happen. It doesn't mean it didn't happen that day when it's happening all the time. So careful watching, careful reading this stuff. I guess you'd be watching the videos to get the information, but it is, I think part of their use of this now, because everything is used in the media, but I think part of their use of this now is to cause a massive, like, psychological shutdown of all of us, just so numb, like when the Hamas war started. Remember, we didn't even know there were Nazis in the country. Like, I literally didn't even know. I mean, I knew there were Nazis in the country, but I didn't know they were out in force marching in the United States of America. None of us did. Now you may remember differently, but if you go back to October 7th, 2020, when was it? We didn't have that here. Now it's just like, oh my God. Well, now we have ICE. Essentially, it's the same exact thing, and I'll react to one of those videos with you too. I'm happy to. Doing nothing with my time all day, I ended up learning a lot. I burst a small blood vessel in my eye, and that's why the pink is there. Otherwise, I wouldn't like to have pink in my eyes. Okay, so let's go.
My power. And you would think when someone's asking for job advice, you'd say, well, what are you good at? You got any skills? Got any hobbies? How do you want to live it? You're 70 whatever years old. How do you want to live the rest of your life? You tell me. But Epstein's immediate advice to him was, give me a list of all the people you know, who owes you favors, who did you wrong, who did you help out. And it really gives you a mindset. This is how you're going to make money. I know Tony Blair's making X million dollars. I know this person's making X million dollars.
I didn't see these.
I can get that for you, but I'm going to need you to give me those names of the people who owe you things. And it's really just a window into the
okay, I didn't see that.
of the way that these people operate, the way these networks operate. and how they do so in a way that enriches themselves at the expense of the people. And when you look at all these events over the past few years, past decade plus, when you look at events like Brexit, right? Like I'm talking major global events, you see that it was this group of people tied to Jeffrey Epstein and these associates and people like Steve Bannon and people like Peter Thiel and people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Prince Andrew and Lord Mendelsohn in the UK, and you name it. It was all these people who were involved in shaping the course of our history and leading to where we are today. I almost had an epiphany, like, shit's so crazy right now. And as I was reading these things, I'm like, is it because of all of these people? Are they the ones who put us on this path?
Yes.
It's truly, truly mind-blowing stuff. And I know Ben's gone into greater detail in all of his hot takes, which are all incredible. And you should watch and listen to them. But this is honestly jaw-dropping stuff, which I think is even greater, like a much bigger deal, a much bigger story than it's even often presented as.
Brilliant, Brett. I think you're absolutely onto something there, no doubt about it. And Benji, your breakdowns on this entire saga have been so fascinating to listen to, and just so
They've been
brilliant as
so
well.
good.
To Brett's point, please, if you haven't watched Ben's videos on all of this, he breaks it down in a way where I like to say anybody could really understand the connections to all of this. So Benji, kudos to you, big bro. Brett, I want to quickly go back to the Lutnick and Trump relationship of it all, specifically how they always make themselves the hero in their own stories, especially as it relates to Epstein, right? What was Trump's thing? I kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago.
Mike Johnson said he was an FBI informant to actually help him. I mean,
exactly. Trump's an FBI informant. Trump kicks him out of Mar-a-Lago. What a hero. Lutnick. Lutnick and those spidey sense instincts of his. The first day he met him, he went to his wife, said, "No, this guy's a sleaze bag. We're not going in there." Lo and behold, communications decades later shows that they're buddies, apparently. I mean, what other conclusion can you draw there? It's because there's not an honest bone in any of these people's bodies. These people will do whatever it takes to continue to enrich themselves at the expense of anybody else. And really, like, the really disgusting portion of it here is that how they decided, apparently, to kind of, and I'm talking about, like, the real, like, deal, like the Epstein, all of that, like the Epstein inner circle, is how they just, there's a human element to all of this, is what I'm getting at. And what these men did, and I'm not saying Lutnick in particular, that's not what I'm saying here, but what these men did to these girls on Epstein Island, and how they abused these girls and how they raped these children, to me, is just utterly appalling.
God.
And now we, come decades later, and the information's getting out there, and now just the re-traumatization of it all, with the mishandling of the Epstein file released to me, is just absolutely disgusting. And the fact that they just can't own that they are fumbling the release of these files, that they aren't doing their due diligence, trying to protect the victims, to me, is just so, again, disgusting and upsetting for so many different ways. I don't know how you feel about Benji. Well, I do know how you feel about it, actually. But, like, for you, when you see the mishandling of these documents, to me, it almost feels intentional, with just
100%.
redactions are and what we're seeing come out. Can you comment from, like, your lawyer side of it, just how badly they're fumbling this?
This is a simple document production. It's actually not complex at all. Every day, back when we had competent federal prosecutors, and for any civil litigators out there watching this who handle complex cases involving financial fraud or what have you, you deal with terabytes of documents all the time. The number 3 to 5 million documents or pages, in my world when I was a litigator, that's actually not a lot of documents. Why? You work with teams of people to review them. You use search tools that help you. You do it every day, and you just sit down and review it. It's not all that hard. If you have a team of 5 people, right? Some of these emails and text messages are short. Some of the pages are long because it has a lot of filler or news articles or things that aren't necessarily relevant. So you start to see these patterns when you do your document review. And so, typically for me, a 3 to 5 terabyte doc review, which may be 5 to 10 million documents, is a 60-day to 75-day task. So if you told me I had until February to January 31st of the next year to do this, plus I had 250 lawyers, maybe more, because if you believe the DOJ, they claimed they had 1,000 lawyers working on this back last year, 1,000. I would tell you this is a 30-day task. It's easy. But also you have no leadership at the DOJ. You have horrible actors at the DOJ. You've got Donald Trump's criminal defense team at the DOJ. And so that's why you have the outcomes that you do. A few other points I just want to make. Howard Lutnick received $50,000 apparently from Epstein in 2017 when Lutnick received some award. So that communication was happening at least through 2017. So I just want to talk about that. In terms of some of these other events, you have Epstein speaking with people at the highest level about things like Brexit, Putin's annexation of Crimea, Jair Bolsonaro, the right-wing extremist kind of dictator guy who took over Brazil and was their Trump, was their MAGA puppet that Bannon helped implement, and Bannon was instrumental in getting Bolsonaro elected there, and talks about it in the messages with Epstein as they're talking about toppling world governments. So you have Bolsonaro who's mentioned. You have Epstein talking about getting Putin involved in lots of different things, including Bitcoin back in 2013 and 2014. Lots of Bitcoin talk. You have Prime Minister Ehud Barak, the former Prime Minister of Israel. You have the former Prime Minister of Norway, Thorbjørn Jagland, who was also the Secretary General of the Council of Europe from 2009 to 2019. You had Sultan bin Sulayman, a royal affiliated person in the United Arab Emirates. Interesting, because we're going to talk later in this episode about Trump's current connections and receiving lots of money from the UAE. And they're talking at the highest level with Epstein as the main connector about world events. And in my opinion, and I'm not suggesting any specific person or this or that or the other, I'm just saying more broadly when I look through these files, the sex trafficking is the currency that was used by Epstein and other predators in order to transact and blackmail each other.
Oh, yeah. They're using our children as their currency to get around the world and get around business and get into rooms and get out of rooms. They know how to have this conversation. They know how to make kids so scared. They write in code. They don't want to come forward. Not to mention, they took their whole fucking lives and made this their story. Like, who the hell wants to make this their story? And then they're thieves and they laugh and they're the world's currency. So the currency is changing. The age of Aquarius. It's a full moon. It's all love. And it's all for us. And it's all for you. I hope you subscribe. I'm going to listen to a little bit more. I'm not going to watch the whole thing, but I will link it below. It's so creator mode. I hope that you'll watch it. I just do whatever all the time. And this isn't like what I want for my whole job. I have a whole other thing. A whole other thing. But I really need to be seen and I would love to connect. Please subscribe and please, be kind. Be kind to each other. Didn't Ellen DeGeneres say that? And then she was like a total bitch. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Fucking speak your mind. Never stop. If you're innocent, fight for that. It doesn't mean that you don't have to say anything. It means you have to say even more. Because the guilty don't come forward. I know. And they're really good liars. I mean, that's their job, right? Okay, we've been deceived. So much, so badly. For everything. So, please subscribe.